Yo, what's goody, y'all? This is your boy T Sway. I'm gonna let everybody pull up before I start talking about today. Before I start talking about today's main subject, the main event, really, which is about Bryson Tiller. And I'm gonna let y'all get in here, pull up, and we're gonna have a discussion about this whole Bryson Tiller topic about him not wanting to do music anymore. So chillax, let a few people get in the chat, and then we're gonna have a little conversation about this whole Bryson Tiller situation. So I'm gonna use that bathroom, get my water. I'll be right back. What's goody? Yo, what's good? I appreciate you, generic. Generic was good. I appreciate you. Thank you for using my beats. I got a bunch of new beats available at tonyswaymusic.com as well. Make sure you go grab that buy one, get 19 free special at tonyswaymusic.com as well. I appreciate y'all. What's good? CTC the King. You know what I mean? I appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all donate your your super chats, get your super thanks in there. I appreciate all the support. You can if you can't make a super chat donation, you could essentially just like the video, or you could go support me by going over to tonyswaymusic.com and grabbing the buy one get 19 free beat lease package special. So I appreciate all the support. I want to keep bringing you guys these leads. I appreciate all the love. I appreciate you, CT, or not CT, Casey. I appreciate you. So I'm going to start talking about this whole Bryson Tiller situation in a second. I don't know if y'all heard about it, but yeah. So, yeah, man. I got my water on deck. Yeah, if you lease the beats, you can definitely put them out. But yeah, I mean, I don't have any free beats available. Everything is you got to lease it from my website. So make sure you lease it. I'm not sure if you've leased it or not. So let me know, man. I'm not one of those free producer dudes, man. I charge for my beats. I got to get that bread, bro. I got a family. Ain't no free stuff over here. I get that money. We get money over here. So got to get that bread. So yeah, I get a lot of beat leases. So I'm not sure if you lease the beat, of course, yeah, put it on YouTube. But if you haven't leased the beat, you gotta go lease that on my website. So definitely shoot me an email for sure. Yeah, man. Yeah, but you got to pay up though. So don't put it out unless you're gonna lease it. So I don't play that about my beats, man. I'm all about money, bro. I do this for real. So I don't do that free stuff. But I appreciate the love. But if you really want to show that love, make sure you head on over to TonySwayMusic.com. I got kids, bro. You know what I mean? I do this all day. This is all I do. So you know what I mean? But I appreciate you. I appreciate you listening to the music. So definitely all the love in the world. So don't take it as I'm not saying it in a disrespectful way. I really do this as my job. So if you want to put it out, make sure you go ahead and lease it at TonySwayMusic.com. God bless you, man. So I appreciate the love. Tarika World, I appreciate you. Yeah, so definitely, man. But yeah, just shoot me an email. I don't want to discuss business in the chat room. Just shoot me an email, TonySway1@gmail.com. KC. Yeah, man. Just shoot me an email. But yeah, I do require, like I said, I do require a beat lease if you're going to release the track. So that's mandatory. I can work with your budget, man. Just shoot me an email and we'll work it out. Okay, boss. We'll work out something, King. Just, shoot me an email, TonySway1@gmail.com. God bless. Yeah. So let's talk about, let's talk about the whole Bryson Tiller situation. Is anybody seen that or listened to the Rory and Mal podcast where they interviewed Bryson Tiller recently? Yeah, I'm still buying different synthesizers. Definitely. I got some more stuff that I'll be ordering soon. But the studio is getting kind of full, you know what I mean? So, but I got some more instruments that I'll be buying soon. Takara, I appreciate you. No doubt, Casey the King. Yeah. Just make sure you go ahead, shoot me an email. We can discuss business on the email. But I appreciate you, brother. No doubt. One love. Yeah, man. So what's up, people? Hey, if you're in the chat, make sure I see that we got a couple people watching. If you're in the chat, make sure you say what's up. Don't be afraid to get in the chat. This is your boy Tony Sway at TonySwayMusic.com. Make sure you donate your super chats. Show some support for the Tony Sway brand. I'm trying to take this to the next level, and definitely, I like to kick it with you guys and definitely talk about just everyday things that has to do with music and this R&B. You know what I mean? I like to chop it up with everybody and kind of just keep everybody in the know. Alabama, okay. Takara, you're from? Shout out to Alabama. That's what's up. I've never been over to Alabama, but shout out to Alabama. One love. You got love from Tony Sway. John Tay, I appreciate you. You out in Seattle? Oh man, we neighbors then. I'm actually out in Olympia, so I'm pretty close. Right now I'm out in Olympia. Last year I was actually living out in Edmond. So hey, we're basically neighbors. So yeah. I appreciate you, John Tay. Yeah, you ain't far from me at all. It's just probably maybe an hour drive at best. For sure. But hey, we're gonna get into the topic at hand today. So let's talk about, if anybody has seen the Rory and Mal podcast about Bryson Tiller, and essentially what he was saying on that podcast is he doesn't enjoy being an artist, y'all. You guys really gotta, when you get a chance, you really gotta check that Rory and Mal podcast and watch the Bryson Tiller interview. Yeah, Takara. So he was basically just saying that he doesn't really enjoy being an artist. He was basically saying that it's just too much pressure for him. You know what I mean? Jay, what's good? From Jay from Houston. I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate all the love. God bless you. I truly do. Yeah, yeah. So Jay, basically what he was saying that he just doesn't enjoy being an artist, and exactly, yeah, he blew up off the song "Don't." So he's saying he just doesn't enjoy it. Like he was basically saying that he's more of a low key kind of person. He doesn't like people talking about him, even if they like him or whether they don't like him. He doesn't like the pressure of what people think about him. He's kind of more of an introverted kind of person, which I didn't really know that. I never really. This is my first time actually watching a full interview about him, and it actually made me like him more as a person. He's a really cool person, really humble, but he doesn't like being talked about. He likes music, but he doesn't like the whole celebrity aspect of music. He's just saying that it was basically it's a lot to deal with for his mental health, and the only reason why he's still in the game, essentially, is because it's paying him well, but it's also really hard on his mental. You know what I mean? And if you watch the whole interview, he was actually talking about how Timbaland actually kind of he kind of did him dirty a little bit. Unfortunately, I haven't heard Timbaland speak on the situation, but he wasn't shaming Timbo, but he was essentially saying that Timbaland told him to quit his job, and he literally quit his job and then went to work with Timbaland and then Timbaland backtracked and told him, "Hey, I didn't tell you to quit your job," and pretty much ghosted him. And then he only liked that one record, "Don't." But Timbaland wasn't feeling anything else. And then he ghosted him when he needed more money. I think he got a little bag from Timbaland, but then when he quit his job, he got ghosted because Timbo wasn't feeling any of the other songs. And so he kind of just, him and his people, he kind of just had to scrap and figure out what they were going to do. And fortunately, he was able to continue to keep recording. And the "Don't" song, they were able to obviously blow that record up. It blew up on SoundCloud, and he just said he would, watch, his SoundCloud. He would check in every day, and he would see the SoundCloud numbers were just going crazy. You know what I mean? Aaliyah, Davina, appreciate you. And so it's just like, that's basically, that's what he was saying, that Timbaland kind of backtracked and didn't help fund his career. Or he was basically looking for Timbaland to help him with money so he could finish his project, essentially. But Timbaland backtracked and essentially kind of stopped working with them, or basically stopped working with them. And so, he was saying that he doesn't hold it against him. He was saying that there's no beef or anything, but he did say that Timbaland kind of pulled the fast one on him. It is what it is. This is just what he said. I'm not the judge of the situation. This is just, this is what he said. I can't confirm if that's the truth or not, but it's what he said. So, but yeah, that was pretty interesting to hear that, his situation, you know what I mean? Just that, if you hear a situation and then him just not wanting to really be an artist. And then he was talking about how if he could get signed as a songwriter, he was saying if Drake or Chris Brown told him to stop being an artist and just hired him full time as a songwriter, that he would drop his artist job, like literally, like right now. He would just go straight to being an artist. And, that's crazy to me, because a lot of people, at the same time, some people might be salty at Bryson because a lot of people would love to be in his position where, he's experiencing a lot of success. He's on a lot of dope features. He's, it's been a while since Trap Soul dropped, but he's remained, he's still relevant. He's on a big #1 R&B record with Chris Brown and everything. So he's still doing it despite his displeasure with the game. Yeah, definitely. He has some, music with not Siga, but SZA and Summer Walker. Yeah, what you said, Bryson and Neo and Floyd and Omarion and a few more who never use autotune. Yeah, no doubt. And if you guys are just tuning in, make sure you get those super chats in there. I definitely want to bring this live to more people. So yeah, if you want to see me do this more often, it ain't free. I'm taking time out of my studio session to definitely chop it up with the people. I definitely love speaking to you guys. But if you want to, if you rock with the Tony Sway brand, and if you want to see and hear more music, definitely make sure you get those super chats in. Make sure you go to TonySwayMusic.com and get yourself some leases. I got buy one, get 19 free. And also, if you can't do any of that, at the least, you can add a like to the video, which I do appreciate, because that gets this out to more people on YouTube, so more people will see these videos. So I appreciate y'all. So don't be shy. Donate. Give me that super thanks. And keep my lights on in the crib. I appreciate it. Yeah, but real talk. I can relate to what Bryson is saying, because for me, myself, I was going hard at being an artist in about 2000. I'm always going to be artist, by the way, but I was going full time as an artist in 2015 and 2016, and I was experiencing some good success. My streams were crazy at that time. I accumulated like 60 million streams on my songs, Climax, Just Wanna Touch, Give You Love, Taste You, Intoxicated, and a few other records combined was like over 60 million views combined. So I was going hard at being an artist myself, but when I looked at the road ahead, as I was getting a little bit older, because I was approaching my mid 30s at that time. I'm older than that now, but I was approaching my mid 30s at that time. And I had to ask myself, I said, how do I want to do music? Do I want to keep going as an artist, or should I pivot and just go full time into being a producer? And I decided to pivot because, to maintain that success as an artist is actually very difficult, and I was one of the few people that was able to make a living as an artist, because it is pretty rare. I mean, I usually don't meet people that make a full-time living as a musician. So I was making a full-time living as an artist in 2015 and 2016, just based off my streams alone. My streams, I was getting so many streams that it literally was paying all my bills, everything. And it was so good that I didn't even have to really produce people that much. I was doing a little bit of production. I was selling a little bit of beats, but I didn't really need to sell beats that much back then, because the streaming checks for Spotify and for my AdSense, my YouTube AdSense were so good. Like I was getting like $11,000, in a month just for streaming, and maybe a few beat sales. But the majority of it would just be like $10,000 check just for streaming. And that was back in 2015, 2016. So I wasn't a millionaire, but I was making a full-time living, making around 10K a month just from streams. So that was a nice little period in my music career, but it was hard to sustain that level of virality. To sustain like 3 million plays a month is very difficult. Was very difficult, y'all. I had to get my music on every top playlist. I had to network with all the best playlisters, and I had to network with all the top playlist curators just so I can earn enough money like that to make a good living. You know what I mean? And it was very difficult to make those connections. So I made the decision to go full time as a producer, because it was going to be very difficult to maintain that 10K from just being an artist, because the amount of networking that you have to do to stay on those playlists. It's a lot. You got to reach out to a lot of people, and sometimes those relationships go bad. You know what I mean? Sometimes those relationships do go bad with, some of the playlist people. If anybody on here is an artist, you know that you got to get your music featured on playlists to really get traffic these days. That's one of the biggest ways to get, unless you have a natural organic blow up, which is very difficult, but it does happen on TikTok and SoundCloud and stuff. But to maintain, you got to get your music got to get picked up by these playlists, and you got to network with these people and send a lot of messages. And sometimes you actually, you have to come out of the pocket and pay some of these curators to feature your music long enough so you can make a profit. And so that's what I was doing back in 2015 and 2016. And it worked out really well, where I was turning a huge profit off of my songs by placing them on the top playlists in the world, essentially. And that's how I got my songs to get right now, my YouTube page is over 70 million, but just in 2 years, I got 60 million plays. And it was a good living being an artist, just living off of streams and making music videos. It was a pretty decent living, like, you know what I mean? So I can relate to Bryson and that pressure that you have as an artist to live up to the hype and have people like what you're doing. Because when I was getting that much love, or when I was getting that much traffic, what happens is that there is a lot of people that are constantly talking about you. You're getting thousands of comments from social media of people saying their opinions. Some people love you, but then some people are like really trashing you. And the thing is, it's like thousands of, when you have music that's viral, you're getting thousands of comments every week from people just saying all kinds of stuff, good or bad. And basically what he was saying is that he's having a hard time dealing with that part of it. Like he enjoys the financial part, that he's able to take care of his family very well. And he's able to, get the house and the cars that he likes. So he loves that. But he was saying that he just doesn't mess with the part of it where he has to listen to people's opinions about his career and about his music. And he basically just expressed a lot of displeasure with that part of the game. But it comes with, heavy is the head that wears the crown. So the more successful you are in music, the more people are going to talk about you. And so if you're a very emotional person, it is going to be very difficult, especially if you're uncomfortable being out there in the public eye. It's definitely going to be hard on you. And you have to, basically, to survive the game, you have to build a thick skin to survive it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, what is your guys' thoughts on Bryson Tiller not wanting to be an artist? And do you think he's right to feel that way, or do you feel offended? Because he's obviously very successful. He's in the 1%. He's making millions of dollars off his music. He's in the 1%. He's buying Lamborghinis. He's buying Lambos, living in mansions, living in Miami. He's living the life. So do you think that basically do you think he's being overly, do you think he's complaining too much about it, and that he should just toughen up and just, not, kind of complain about his situation? Or do you think he's justified in complaining about the difficulties of being an artist? I want to know y'all thoughts, man. I want to know your thoughts. And how would you feel if you was in his position, where, you're the top 5 R&B artists in the world, right next to, obviously Chris Brown and Usher are going to be further than him, but he's doing really well. He's been relevant for a while now. So I don't know, what do you guys think about that? Do you think he's justified in feeling that way, or do you think that he should just, be quiet and toughen up and get his money? So everybody has different opinions. So I just want to hear, what do you think, chat? What do you think about it? I appreciate everybody watching. So if you guys are just tuning in, make sure that you drop your super thanks, because I need support on this channel in order to keep doing this. I got to get that support from y'all. So if you like my music, or if you love my music, drop a little super thanks, $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $20, whatever you can, to show support for this channel. Cause I want to keep bringing more, videos to you guys, and I want to do them on a higher level. And if you can't afford to donate, make sure you just, simply, click the like button and, click the like and share this video. So yeah, just if you can just show some kind of support, obviously I appreciate that, because I want to keep bringing, the best music that I can bring you guys. And I want to do bigger things with this channel and get more people involved. And in order to do that, I need support from the people. So my sways out there, I need my sways to unite and gather together and put their money together and invest in the offering of the Tony Sway Music Channel. I appreciate y'all. So back to the subject at hand. Perfection is perfection from my ladder of understanding, from a young G's perspective. No, I'm just playing. That's because I grew up in the 90s. I gotta recite that, Snoop Dogg verses and stuff. But yeah, I'm just chilling. It's a Wednesday, a little gloomy outside today, so I got the blinds closed because I'm not a big fan of gray skies. So got the blinds closed today. And man, so what, if you guys are just tuning in, we're talking about Bryson Tiller and his, we're talking about Bryson Tiller and how he doesn't want to be an artist anymore, y'all. He wants to be a full-time songwriter, which I think that he could do. I mean, did you guys hear the part on the Rory and Maul podcast where he was saying that he has a hard time actually getting a hold of people in the industry? He says he couldn't get any features on the album from bigger artists because nobody would return his call. And that, to me, that's crazy. Like, it's crazy to me that somebody at his level is basically having a difficult time even getting features, because he's definitely going on other people's projects. Yeah, you said, KC, you're saying, I feel he shouldn't let those people get to him or what they say about him. No, I definitely 100% agree with that. That's what I was saying, is that do you guys think that he's being overly, I guess for a lack of better words, is he being overly sensitive? And I'm not going to judge the man, because, so everybody has, different mental health struggles out there. So some people take things a lot harder than other people do. But some people can't deal with things as much as other people can, Yeah, no, that's unfortunate, man. They shouldn't do that. But I think maybe he just never, the level of people that are probably reaching out to him, and it sounded to me like social media was a pretty, it sounded like his social media is kind of like the biggest part of his struggle as far as the kind of comments that he reads. It seems like he was saying that it really bothers him. So it seems to me that social media in itself kind of has been hard on his mental health, and basically being able to continue being, in order to continue being an artist, he basically wishes that he can kind of be under the radar and just be a songwriter, because he just has a hard time dealing with what people think about him, basically, and yeah, I see what you're saying, KC. Yeah. If Bryson, if you ever if you're on this live or you happen to come across this video for any reason, nothing but love to you, brother. So proud of you, what you've done in this music game. And you're definitely a great musician overall, no matter if you want to do it, for the rest of your life or not. Bryce Tiller is hands down very talented individual, but this is not to shame him in any kind of way. I'm just, exploring, I just kind of want to see what other people think about what he had to say. And you know, it's unfortunate that he's experiencing some of those feelings. But Bryson, man, you're a talented dude, and don't let people, don't let anybody bring you down at the end of the day. And you just block out the negativity, and take breaks from social media if you have to, and just try to focus. That's what this is basically what I would say to him. Is just try to focus on the positive aspects of what you're doing. Focus on that it's blessing you and your family, and focus, that it's putting a roof over your head. And just focus on like trying to transition to be a songwriter, because I think people are going to see his podcast, and I'm pretty sure that the people like the Chris Browns and people like that will reach out to him, because obviously they do music together. I think he's going to get that opportunity to transition as a full-time songwriter. And so Bryson, man, if you hear this, I think you're going to get your chance to be a full-time songwriter, because you're already up there with the great people of this time. And I think Bryson's definitely going to get his opportunity to make that transition as a full-time writer. So I think he will get the opportunity, Yeah. So I think it might not happen right away, but I think as time goes, I mean, he definitely, they call him Pen Griffey, like Ken Griffey Jr. So they call him Pen Griffey. So I have the hunch that he's going to definitely be able to write some hit songs for some people. And as he transitions, he'll be able to make that more of a full-time thing. But who knows? Sometimes artists get tired of the game. They get out of it for a couple years, and then sometimes they want back at it, So if he becomes a full-time writer, does that mean that he's going to quit being an artist? I guess we'll just have to see, because, sometimes people say that, but they also like making their own music. So I don't know if he would completely stop releasing music. I doubt that he would completely stop releasing music, but maybe he would. Maybe he would. It just depends. It just depends. But he's literally the guy who was working at a everyday job, and Timbaland told him to quit his job, and initially it didn't work out, but within a little bit of time, that record Don't eventually took over, and that's what got him, obviously, that got him his record deal, and he started blowing up, and obviously the rest is history, multi-platinum and all that. Let's see. Generic, you're saying that my thoughts on Bryson, he just was of an era that he's still in, hasn't really brought on people using his skill. I don't think the transition will be easy as it sounds. Yeah, and that is true as well. So he was saying that he's having a hard time getting a hold of people for like features for his album. And he said it got to the point where he just stopped reaching out because a lot of the people weren't getting back to him, and he said everyone, like if you listen to the interview with Rory and Mal, they said, well, who's not hitting you back? And he goes, well, I'm not going to say names, but they're like, well, we want to know, like, and he's like, everybody, basically, dog, everybody. So I don't know if he was just kind of like in a bad mood, but he was just saying that basically, essentially, all the big people that he was reaching out to wasn't interested in doing his features. It might just be maybe a communication breakdown. Maybe some of the people didn't read his message, perhaps, because I know he has records I know he gets on Chris Brown's records. I know he gets on other famous people's records. So, but, sometimes things are a little bit funny when you're out in this world of music. Sometimes you do for others, and then sometimes people don't return the favor. I've been in those situations where I've done for people. I've done a lot for other musicians, and they don't always return the favors. On the camera, it seems like you're best friends with these people behind the scenes, these people are playing a dirty game of, musical politics, and they're treating you like the little guy because they have 2 million more followers on their Instagram. And so they'll get help from you, but when it comes time for you to need help, they kind of out you. And it almost sounded like that. It sounded like to me that Bryson Tiller is kind of getting little brothered by some musicians in the game, which is kind of sad. So it sounds like to me that people that he knows and has done music for, it sounds like to me that he's kind of getting the cold shoulder from people that he thought that he could work with, which is unfortunate. But he didn't say a name, but he kind of said everybody. So that's kind of crazy to me that, but maybe he can clarify that on another interview, because I don't know, that sounds crazy to me, that because I know that he has obviously he has a big record right now with Chris Brown that's doing really well, that's blowing up the charts. So, it's hard to imagine that people wouldn't get back on his album. You know what I mean? It's hard for me to imagine, but. And so you're saying that, he goes, arguably he has really not had a super mega hit since Don't. And I think Brent took the position he held the music lane because The Weeknd just gave it up. Bryson got caught in on it and Brent took it. Yeah, and I've been familiar with Brent's work a little bit, you know what I mean? But they're in a similar kind of lane, where not the same, but they're in that similar era, right? It's the trap soul era where, people are combining the soulful singing with kind of those Drake undertones, but the beats will be, the drums will be trapped out, but the melodies will still be R&B, and they'll have like some of the Kanye West kind of chipmunk soul voices in there and stuff like that. And you said toxic R&B, pretty much, right? Like that's kind of the subject matter, is more of a toxic nature in that sense, right? So I mean, yeah, we're in a total different era of R&B now, where obviously it's not the 90s anymore, and it's not the early 2000s either. The 90s and the early 2000s was kind of still all about the romantic, those were still the romantic eras where people were always talking about getting married, put your woman first, Jaheim, Night and Day. Well, Night and Day's 80s, but the 90s, SWV, Love Will Be Right Here, So Weak. The 90s and the early 2000s was really that romantic era in R&B, where it was all about the relationship. It was all about, being in love, but the era that we're in now, really for the better part of the last 15 years, has kind of been more of the toxic R&B era. And kind of Drake kind of really kicked that off, right? Where, with his earlier work, right? Where, you can go all the way back to like a Marvin's Room, right? A Marvin's Room was kind of the beginning of that, almost that whole kind of era. And a lot of these guys have said, that they borrow heavily from Drake, and, the way that he wrote, and, basically the way that he harmonized and did his melodies, and the way that he structured his songs lyrically and all that. So Bryson has said many of times that he's been influenced by Drake heavily. You know what I mean? The Migos, I never was too familiar with the Migos work. I just always known about them, but I was never too familiar with their work. But of course I know who they are and everything. He was saying, I think toxic R&B is being taken over by post-relationship R&B because not too many can get a relationship or sustain a relationship. So now people are facing anything could happen in a relationship. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is a reflection of the economy and where people are at financially. On that note, make sure you guys do a super chat. Make sure you send in a super chat, super thanks to support this channel. If you can't do a donation, you can also provide a like for the video so it gets out to more people. And you can also support me by going over to TonySwayMusic.com and grabbing a couple beat leases. You can get up to 20 beats for the price of one. So make sure you take advantage of that. I appreciate you guys for being here. Little water break. So Takara, you were saying Bryson Tiller and country music would be interesting. You're right. I think I've never thought about that before. So that would be pretty interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about Migos. I know rest in peace to Takeoff and everything. That's a very unfortunate situation. But yeah, I think because of my age, there's certain people that I never really got into. You know what I mean? But I'm a Bone Thugs and Harmony. I'm a Bone Thugs and Harmony guy. So the Migos was kind of like, they're kind of like sons, not literally sons, but they're kind of like offspring of Bone Thugs. They do that, that triple time. They do that whole triple time flow, the twist patterns and all that. So I'm still listening to Bone Thugs and Crazy Bone. And I know Crazy Bone personally. I talk to him all the time. And I got at least like 3, maybe like 4 records that I produced for him at this point. So I'm more of a, like I said, I'm more of a Bone Thugs Harmony guy. So I never really got into the Migos because it just never, it's just a different era than when I'm from, you know what I mean? But much love to them though. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I love the oldies as well, bro. So, and that's what it is. So, man, if you guys are just tuning in, we're talking about Bryson Tiller and his displeasure with being an artist in today's industry. And I can't say that I necessarily blame him. I can't say that I necessarily blame him. I think it can be difficult for artists these days because everything is overexposed now. Like in order to be an artist now, you have to be overly exposed. You have to be on social media. You have to be live streaming. You have to be out there 24/7. There's not as much privacy. So, if we go back to the Michael Jackson era, Michael Jackson was famous for hardly giving interviews. He would barely give people interviews. He would release one album like that would last for Thriller came out in 1982. Bad came out in 1987. So he would have 5-year breaks from even releasing an album, very small amount of interviews. And Michael, as great as Michael Jackson was, he said he hated touring because it was such a grueling, it was so grueling on his body because the amount of effort he would put into dancing physically. He said it was so hard on his body that after a show or after practice, sometimes he would weigh himself after dancing for hours and literally lose 5 pounds because he was dancing so hard that he would literally drop 5 pounds. And you guys can quote me on that. Michael Jackson said that there was times after a practice or after doing a show that the dancing was so hard on his body that he would literally drop 5 pounds just because that's how hard he was working when he was on stage, which is absolutely crazy. I would like to hear if Chris Brown has actually experienced some similar situations because he puts in a lot of work as well when he's on the stage. When he's performing, he's doing all kinds of flips and flying across the stage. So I would have to imagine that he probably drops a couple pounds, after a show sometimes as well, but he said, in order to blow up, you got to have a YouTube reaction. That's probably true. You said, I think his only problem is gravitating to an older crowd. Interesting. Oh yeah, of course, I'm definitely not comparing Bryson to Michael Jackson in the slightest. I was just going off subject a little bit. Yeah, Bryson, of course he's not Michael Jackson. Hell no. Yeah, I never was Nobody, yeah, I don't think he's ever got that comparison at all. You know what I mean? Bryson, he's his own. If I was to compare Bryson to anybody, he's kind of like a hmm. He's a unique guy. You know what I mean? He doesn't really want to be an artist, but he's very talented. His pen game is crazy. Um, but he is kind of unique. I can't really think of a lot of other artists who are exactly like how he is. This is the first time I've ever actually heard an artist come out and say they don't want to be an artist. So I've never heard anybody say that before. I've never heard anybody who was popular and getting money say that they don't want to do music. I've never heard of that before. I never heard it before. He is definitely unique because most people who are in this game have been striving for it, their whole life. For him, it was just something he was doing, but being an artist was never his passion. But it took off. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, you could say, yeah, he reminds you of Neo somewhat. The only differences I would say is that Neo definitely loves being an artist. He loves doing it. You know what I mean? And I think the only thing that separates him is Bryson is really not passionate about being an artist. He's passionate about the music, but he's not passionate about the business of it, about going out there and, being out there in the public. That he's not passionate about that part. But there's other artists that love the attention. They love the attention that they get from people. They love to be seen. They love to hear from people. So he's just a different type of dude. He doesn't want to really hear from people like that. He just wants to be low key, get his money, make sure that his family's good. And that's just how he wants to be. He doesn't want to get in the way of anything, So that's just how he is. But man, yeah, but at the same time, if you watch the full interview, he was saying, if you watch all the way to the end, he was saying that he is doing really well. He's saying, hey, he was like, I'm doing really good. I'm in a good place. But, he was, at the same time, yeah, he said he's happy. It's just, he would be a lot happier if he was just a songwriter and not an artist, which I can understand that. And, I think that he'll probably make that transition. He probably will make that transition slowly. He probably will be able to, write some hits for some other people. And then, it's a wrap, you know what I mean? So, and, not everybody's going to be an artist for the rest of their life. Not everybody's meant to do it for 15, 20 years. People have to pivot and make transitions in their career. That's just how it goes sometimes. Most artists are not like a Chris Brown that can do this for 20 years. I mean, Chris Brown's an anomaly. Chris Brown to me is actually, he has the passion of like a Prince. He has the passion of somebody like a Prince, where he just has hunger to keep doing it, to keep creating, to keep making more and more music, and also, to perform and all that. And then, Bryson is just not that. He's just not that type of artist. He just, he just wants to get his money and get out, and then fall into writing for people. And he also says that he's working on being a video game creator and making video games, and he's trying to get that off the ground as well. He needs to tighten up his pen game for mature audience. Not. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he sounds like a pretty good songwriter to me. I mean, I'm just going based off, just the general reaction of most people. They appreciate, what he does lyrically and stuff like that. But I'm going to be real with you guys. I don't really care for song lyrics that much. I'm a melody guy. So I'm not the guy going crazy like, oh, look at that punchline. I don't go crazy for punchlines. I'm a melody dude. So if somebody can come up with a great melody, that's what I care about, That's why I'm a big fan of, Al B. Sure and Michael Jackson and Prince and those people like that, because those guys are not, super, they didn't make super complicated lyrics, but they were geniuses of melody. I appreciate the genius of the melody. If I want to listen to lyrics, I'm going to go, listen to a KRS-One, or I'm going to go listen to some old school hip hop where they're really going crazy lyrically. But I never really cared for lyrics. I like the melody. But if I want to listen to lyrics, I'm going to go listen to straight hip hop. I'm going to listen to, like I said, old school people like Rakim or KRS-One or Eminem, for that matter, are people who are really going to go crazy lyrically. But when I listen to R&B, I'm listening for that melody. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, for sure, man. But yeah, yeah, I don't got a problem with Bryson's pen game though. Like he definitely does. I don't think that he needs to be mature. Like that's the thing. Is like people from like he's doing what he's doing for his era. Like his era is a certain. It's not meant to be the 90s era. He's doing what he's doing for his era, right? So it's not going to necessarily appeal to older people. It's going to appeal to the younger generations, which it's just the era that he's from. Um, it's just, yeah. So I just think he just writes what's real to him, and whoever resonates, it resonates. So, but I don't have any really critiques about. I think he's a dope lyricist, and him and Drake have really bridged the gap of rap and R&B, and kind of, they're not the only ones to do it. Obviously, I think Bone Thugs and Harmony was probably the number one dudes to really bridge that gap of hip hop and R&B, especially when they work with Mariah Carey. But there's been a lot of people to bridge that gap. But but yeah, I don't got no problems with Bryson's pen game at all, man. So it's what I mean. So, but yeah, but it's not like I'm listening to that music all the time. But from what I've heard, it's cool with me. But yeah, if you have a specific critique about it, like a specific line you can always mention that. But I'm not a big critic on artists in general. I just either I like it or I don't. You know what I mean? If I like it, I like it. But if I don't like it, I don't. If I don't like it, I don't even talk about it. You know what I mean? So art is art. You know what I mean? So yeah, but at the end of the day, I think we can all agree that Bryson's a talented dude. You know what I mean? What up, Brown? Who's that, Brown? What's good? You said, what do you think of young Jen doing 90s R&B? A lot of people are incorporating 90s R&B into their music. So they are doing it. They're doing it in their own way, in a sense. I mean, if you listen to a lot of these Drake and these Bryson Tiller projects, they're constantly sampling 90s R&B. I mean, Drake and Party Next Door sampled Aaron Hall. I miss you. That don't get no more 90s than that. It don't get no more 90s than Aaron Hall. They sampled I Miss You on their recent project. I mean, they literally just took the whole song and just put it on there and rapped over it, which was crazy. But it was dope though. That was cool. Like, I like when people show love to the 90s R&B, but of course they're going to be doing lyrics are going to be of today's generation. But that was a cool little flip. And then also, Kendrick Lamar is always, he's always using like little 90s R&B samples or even 80s R&B samples in his music, which is dope. So I think some people are definitely trying to keep it alive, but is anybody going to do full on like 90s songs? That's a good question. I definitely do that. You know what I mean? And, but it's hard because it's a lot of people. It's hard to get people behind that because sometimes they call you too old school. and you get criticized when you try to stand out, you know. So I know Doja Cat is doing like a full 80s retro album right now. And she just dropped a single called Jealous Type that kind of sounds like, sounds like the Janet Jackson Control album pretty much. So she's going full retro. So I do see that happening. I don't think people are going to go back to the romantic era because, music is a reflection of modern times, right? So people are going to write about what they see. And, a lot of, relationships are not as romantic as they once was for the younger generation. Older generation, yes, but for the people that are in their 20s now, y'all ain't really that romantic. People in their 20s now are not as romantic as people who are like, 20 years ago, you know what I mean? It's just a different generation. We live in the Tinder generation where people are just swiping, and we live in the IG generation where people are sending DMs. So I think the music is just going to reflect what's going on now. So basically it is going to affect the way that people make R&B music. And so R&B music is just it's a way to communicate people's, feelings and relationships. And right now relationships are kind of like somebody said in the comments before, they're more toxic. So the R&B is going to be a little bit more toxic. Every once in a while, you're going to get like a money long song that is kind of more traditional, like Made for Me. That was more of that was like a traditional R&B love song. But those are kind of anomalies. Those are anomalies. You know what I mean? So it's just most people are going to be talking about Let Me Hit It. Most people are going to be just straight to the point. It's going to be more toxic and, that kind of stuff. So that's just what it is, man. I appreciate that. Yo. So if you guys are just tuning in, I appreciate everybody watching. This is Tony Sway at TonySwayMusic.com. Make sure you get in those super chats. Drop a super thanks right in the chat right now. You can support this channel. $1, $2, $3, $4, $5, whatever you can do. Make sure you drop that super chat, support this channel. If you can't do that, make sure you drop a like on this video. At the least, drop a like and share the video. And you can also support me by heading over to TonySwayMusic.com and, getting yourself 20 beats for the price of one. And I appreciate that because I definitely, I appreciate all the support because I am living off this music and I'm able to provide, for my family from this music. So I'm trying to add live streaming as another thing that I do. And for me to keep doing it, I need support in order to continue, because I'm taking time out of my day, to chop it up, so I've got to get paid. So I appreciate everybody watching. Appreciate you, Brown. Definitely. So I'm about to get off though. I don't see any donations coming in, so I'm gonna have to get off because I got to get to the beats. I got to go where the money is. Y'all. So the money's in my beats right now. So I'm trying to do live streaming is kind of a little side thing to see where that goes, see if it's going to be beneficial. You know what I mean? So yeah. I haven't tried Twitch yet, but I have almost 60,000 subscribers. So I'm trying to connect with you guys on here, see where that goes, to see if I want to, to see if it's going to be worth it to keep doing. I mean, I always live stream here and there, but I'm trying to do it more regularly. I'm trying to do this more regularly because, hey, it's another way to get the bag at the end of the day. And I'm trying to buy more studio equipment, y'all. Shoot, I'm trying to buy another Benz, man. So hey, if live streaming is where it's at, I'm definitely gonna, chop it up here and there. You know what I mean? So yeah. So hey, I'm gonna get off. I appreciate everybody hanging out with me today. So it was real. If you watch this on the playback, make sure you give your thoughts on the Bryson Tiller situation. And even if you're watching it on the playback, if you appreciate this content, like I said, you can support me by simply liking the video, dropping a super thanks, or heading over to TonySwayMusic.com and grabbing a beat. I appreciate y'all. One love. This is your boy Tony Sway, TonySwayMusic.com, and I'm outie. Kaya J, you're tuning in. I'm about to get out. I'm not from New York. I'm from Seattle, Washington. Yeah, Seattle, Washington. But I've never been to New York. Never been from there. But my grandpa was living there, though, for sure. So I appreciate y'all tuning in with me. And I gotta go make some money now. So one love. Appreciate y'all kicking it. And God bless y'all. Peace.